Do you have any preference about the content of the documents you translate?
Any problems?
No, preference.
Oh, preferences.
Do you translate a certain kind of documents?
For any organizations or for?
Yeah, because I think for organizations they have documents for different areas. Do you choose only, say, for certain topic?
No, it depends on the organization. I mean, UNAIDS, of course, what they talk about is about AIDS prevention of stigma, blah, blah, blah. The Department of Public Information in the United Nations, they work with many different topics that the UN work with, and it's huge. ACAF, they deal with mainly with women who try to burn themselves in Afghanistan because they are left by their husbands have died, and things like that. Umoja, for instance, they deal with Congo and with the problems there, political problems there, so it's very sensitive sometimes. But we also work with, for instance, the Guardia Civil, which is our police organization, and they do technical stuff mainly, how to rob houses and things like that. That they need to know, I mean, because they need to be ahead of burglars. So it's very different, very varied, because it depends on the organization. We can have preferences.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Talking about not interfering with the market, do you think perhaps that the police, like the Guardia Civil in this case, should start seeing that we need translations and we need translators, so they should start paying them in a while?
Yeah, we've approached them with that request. It's difficult because, well, they don't give us, they have a translation department. What we did get is some of our former students working later on in that department. So that's something which is a way, some way of paying us back. But we're not happy with them. We don't want that. We don't want them to give us any kind of information for us to translate, and that's it. So they give us just some translations that otherwise wouldn't be translated, or it would take a lot of time to be translated, and it's not essential to them.
So we were talking before about creating this need.
Yeah,
perhaps
that's it. That's the important thing we're
so
going to talk about.
Yeah. Like with professional interpreters.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we want to. That's client education in a way, and that's we work for the benefit of the profession, because we try to create needs, and we try to get the organizations to see that they need translation, that they need professional translators if they want to reach. So, yeah.
I'm right.
We don't like that. Well,
we know what our needs are, and we know that we need translations. But it's always the same problem. For my specific NGO, we can only spend 10% of our budget on administration. That's across the board. So any money that we can save on translations is going to be more money that we're going to put into our activities. It's as simple as that. It's not that we're looking for slaves to
yeah, but is that administration, or is it a core activity, or it should be an essential activity in some ways? That's something that we...
For example, interpreting, sorry again.
It's, we do know, hold on. We do have all the translation, we work with interpreters locally. If we're working in Malawi, we obviously need translators. In every single field that we work in, we need interpreters locally. Those people are paid. And when we translate into the local language, those people are in the field, they are paid. What's considered administrative is what we do in headquarters. For the stuff there. And it's not because I'm not going to send something for translation that I don't really need. Because I wouldn't bother getting it translated. But if I need a translation, I'm first going to see if somebody is available who can do it for free. They're always professional translators. And if it's a very large translation, very specific or very urgent, and I can't find anybody, then I'm going to ask for a budget. But it's not second rate, it's not non-recognition of the translator or the interpreter. But we don't have the budget.
Yeah, but you do know your needs and your limitations. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
I used to work for a non-profit in the States, actually, and the whole history before I moved into working company was nonprofit advocacy, and I used to work for a foundation. And this business of how nonprofits split their budgets so that this 10% rule can be held to is, I mean, it's absolutely vicious. This idea that nonprofit groups are supposed to be working simply from spirit of justice alone really is a way that that really constrains how people feel they can spend their monies and how people view organizations that spend more than this 10% rule. I visited a group that was serving a Hmong community in Minneapolis. It's been a long time now. And this community was having their own problems with the police force because they had no interpreters on staff. And what they had to do was sort of justify this as a program expense, like their people were not being served by the police community because they couldn't even talk about the crime that had happened to them because no one would understand them on the police force. And having to have translation as a program expense is obviously vital, but it's how the foundation also views this expense and how your accountants have to write these expenses, and working in non-governmental organizations is a lot harder than people think.
Any other?
What about proofreading? Do the translations of NGOs are they proofread or
In-house.
in-house? And okay, so the proofreaders are not paid, or are they paid?
No, well, I can't talk about my personal
Okay,
experience. I do look for people from my own children, because I am a translator. But for instance, I work for a medical NGO. As soon as there's a medical text, I have to give it to a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be the final person to validate a medical text. If there's a problem in that text, it's someone's life. I can't validate the final version.
Yeah.
So I have to look for a doctor whose mother tongue, whatever it's in, who's going to validate.
So again, first you look for those that don't want to be paid, and then if you don't find someone, you get to the ones that want to be paid. Or so who do you contact first?
The proofreading?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's people, it's staff in-house, it's not their
Ah,
job.
in-house you said so.
No,
Yeah.
it's doctors who work
Yeah,
for
yeah,
organizations.
Just one very short question. In terms of working for the police, I mean, I work for the police here from time to time. There's a checkup, criminal records, confidentiality agreements. It's a nightmare. I mean, I don't know in Spain. I'm from Spain, but I don't work
We
in
don't go
Spain.
into that stuff. No.
No. I mean, are they going to accept to hire? No, I mean, I wouldn't say to hire, but to have somebody working for them who is doing all the criminal records and everything.
We don't want students working with that kind of stuff. No. I think professionals have to do it.
Should be professional.
In that case, what is the guarantee? The university? I mean, at the end we are human beings. I mean, one of your students, I mean, will have, I don't know, do something like working with issues with confidentiality. I mean, how are they able to trust you? Are they able to trust the university?
Well, they have to sign a confidentiality agreement.
Okay.
Not only with the police, but with NGOs.
Okay.
They have to sign that agreement. Yeah.
But that's not the university, that's companies who does that, who work with the Department of Justice or the Gardaí in Ireland, and that's none of the universities or non-profit organisations, because the translators and interpreters working for those companies are being paid. But that's not educational companies, it's pure business, to be honest.
In Spain we've had problems with that lately because they've outsourced it, and the interpreters and translators that they actually pay come from another company, and the company's not asking for them to have any training whatsoever. If you just speak two languages, you can do it. And now there are a lot of problems with that because people are saying that they have been translated, that the translation was wrong and that they shouldn't have been found guilty. So there have been a lot of problems with that. They're trying to fix it now, but that's the question of the police and the company that does it.
And then this, this trade ship, it's what we're trying